Good evening. We are here with a familiar face debuting our new series on this Facebook channel, Across the Miles. We are checking in on people who worked here, lived here, were born here, whatever, in Saginaw. Well, I shouldn't say Saginaw, the whole region, and have gone on to great things. And Marc Beaudin is our first guest for this series, coming all the way from Montana.
Yes.
And right now I could wring his neck because I wanted him to be first because he has a really neat bookstore there with all sorts of beautiful photo ops. But what did he decide to do? Move. So all of his books apparently are in boxes, 500 of them. What's the name of your bookstore and what kind of books you sell?
Yeah, it's Elk River Books, and we do mostly our focus is antiquarian, rare collectible books. We focus a lot on the outdoors and Western history, poetry, of course. But we also have new books and then just general used books.
So
And
how many books would you have on the shelves, basically?
We usually on the shelves have about 12,000.
Hello?
About 12,000.
Okay, that's a lot.
We've been moving about, probably 16,000 books because we have a number that aren't cataloged yet.
Yep. What,
So,
just a bigger space or?
yeah. Right now we share the space with a gift store, which has been wonderful. But both of us have grown so much, we both just need more space.
Got it.
So,
Yep.
we were lucky enough to be able to get a loan from the Small Business Association,
Okay.
and we are taking that money and buying our own building. So
Now you moved to Montana in 2008. When did the bookstore open?
2011.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I could probably spend the rest of an hour saying all the things you did when you were in Saginaw, but you were a park ranger at Greenpoint. Then you and other people founded a small arts group called Cage and another one called 303 Collective. And those did art, theater, concerts, workshops, art exhibitions. And then you acted, directed, and designed several plays at Pitt.
Hmm.
Have I missed anything? Are you acting now? Have you done any acting since moving?
I've done a bit of acting. There's actually a few different theater companies here that I've worked
good.
with.
Okay.
So I've done quite a bit of directing. I've just to let people know our store is torn apart right now, and I'm in the back storage room, and so I just threw some stuff on these barren shelves to make it look like, but it's kind of terrible. But this is from one of the plays I directed.
Okay.
David Auburn at the Ripper Theater, and but I've done a little bit of acting. The last thing I did was a film of a kind of a Nigerian adaptation of The Tempest, dealing with colonialism, and so Prospero is the colonizer who comes to another place and tries to take over, and
fun.
And of course, I got to play Prospero, so it's fun to play the villain.
Yeah, exactly. So when you were in Saginaw, you were extremely active in poetry. You did some things for the Theodore Roethke Poetry Festival. You were head of a poetry band called Miscellaneous Jones.
Yes.
So, and you're a published poet. When you were here, you and Al Hillis published a book called Saginaw Songs.
Mm-hmm.
Now, since moving, you have been really busy. Your newest book is Lifeless, but we're going to talk a little bit shortly about an earlier one called Vagabond Songs.
Okay,
so tell us a bit about that.
So, Vagabond Song, which I happen to have a visual aid.
Yep, good.
It's kind of a hitchhiking and road trip memoir that blends poetry and prose, and it pretty much covers the years from graduating from Saginaw Valley in 91. And, that's when I started going on the road pretty much every summer, with a couple exceptions, and, and other road trips at other times of the year. And did that until I moved here in 2008. And so I just went back through these old journals, that I was keeping while traveling, and began to work it into a book. Each section of the book is a different highway that I spent time traveling.
Yeah. And that, from what I understand, it got pretty good reviews, right?
Yeah. I was really happy. There's some really great publications out here. The Montana Quarterly wrote a really wonderful review. You wrote an amazing review.
I wish, because I wish I could be a vagabond. That's why.
Right. But yeah, I was really honored to get that. I miss, not to change the subject, but one of the things I really miss about being out here is that you're not here to review plays that I direct.
Okay. Oh, yeah, and I'd love to see some of them. Yeah.
We need good reviewers out here for theater. But it was written up in several magazines, and I did what I called the 100 Highways tour to promote it. So I traveled 100 different highways doing readings.
Oh, fun.
Really?
When did that come out? That was, what, 2 years ago? 3 years? I've lost.
No, it was, I need to check, because this was 2015.
Okay, where did that time go? Okay.
Yeah, right.
So the newest that we're here to really talk about, it's called Life List. Mm-hmm. And any of you out there who are birding fans might kind of guess what its topic is, because Mark is also an avid birder, and has been, I guess, all of your life. So how did you gather all those? And they're all about birds in some way, I guess. Yeah. Hold that one up so we can see it.
Each poem, there's Life List with artwork, Stores Bishop. Yep. Each poem has a different bird. Sometimes the poem is about the bird. More often, the bird is kind of a jumping off point into what the poem is really about. So they're not all, nature poems. They're not talking about a pretty bird on a tree.
pretty flamingo on a tree, right? Okay, yeah. That's gotten some awards or mentions or something.
Yeah, a huge honor so far. It was an honor book winner for the Montana Book Award.
Oh, okay.
Where they pick one book a year published in Montana, or about Montana, or about by a Montana author, to win the main award. And then they pick usually, just 2 or 3 honor books.
Okay.
So
and you're one of them. Yeah.
And one of them, which, for poetry is pretty huge, because, Montana has a really strong history of, nonfiction, a lot of, history and outdoor books. The book that won actually is called Shakespeare in Montana by my friend Gretchen Minton. And it's just a wonderful book about, like, through the whole history of Montana, even going back to, Montana Territory.
Wow.
The early, pioneers coming out here, they brought 2 books with them. They brought the Bible and the collected works of Shakespeare.
Wow, there's a great contrast.
Montana, but anyway, that's and Gretchen she was the director of that Tempest project that I worked on. So it's all kind of, Montana is like a very small town with very long roads.
Okay.
So like everyone's your neighbor, but they might live 500 miles away.
So what I'm going to have you do is, and maybe read 2 or 3, and we'll see where the time is after that. And if you can definitely pick one of them that maybe was connected in some way to Saginaw.
I would love that.
Okay, let me get you. Oh, how do I just you? I knew that. Oh, I bet I do. No.
Maybe it's my camera. I'm afraid to touch it.
I'm afraid I just did. Okay.
But
Well, people,
so
you'll just have to look at me too. Not another year, I'll figure this out. Okay, go ahead.
the book is divided into different regions, like a field guide would be, and so the first section is birds of the eastern United States. So there are quite a few that I wrote in Saginaw or when I was living in Saginaw.
How many are in there? Quite a few, right?
I think there's 80 some,
Yep. Okay.
close to 80. And so I'll read this poem because it's about our mutual friend Al Hellis.
Okay.
When he had his heart trouble and was in the hospital, and I went to visit him. This poem comes from that. It's called Dreams Odd. A lone gull takes possession of the river, spiraling down from the dead tree of a utility pole. As you, voiceless in your hospital bed, draw letters with a finger across your thigh. DREAMSODD. I speak each one as you scratch them out, slowly understanding while a machine blips out the remaining measure of your life. From the window, I can see the gull, a splash of white paint on the brown face of the river, like a woman who's been painting her bedroom after patching a heart-sized hole. You've been having odd dreams, I say, trying to fill the silence with sense, failing. And the river somehow keeps flowing. I guess that's just what rivers do.
Oh, wow.
That's for Al.
That's for Al.
I miss him.
We all do.
Yeah. Well, maybe I'll do another one here. This is, do you want to do that one? It's so hard to pick which one to do.
I know.
Yeah. I could pick more book to you,
Maybe we'll have to do part two.
I was going to say, speaking of Saginaw, and sporting the Cork and Ale cozy today. Another place I miss. Well, this one I wrote after I had moved. I mostly in Saginaw. I lived over on the east side, and eventually I moved over to Old Town, and I was walking from my apartment down to the Red Eye, and this poem came about. It's called Linguistics. The winter crows are gathering their murder like holes punched in the sky. They trick the sun as Coyote watches, tries to learn the magic, but always is distracted by his own dancing shadow. Their movements are silent negotiations. Their words hold every dream of flight on the tip of my tongue. They sharpen the November dulled edge of the tree line, and I check my cheek for blood. Boots crunch snow, heading toward the river, alone, hungry, and all I want is to understand the language of the crows. Then I will count myself among the few, the happy ghosts who sing themselves to their own untroubled sleep.
That's a good one. Okay,
Thank
go for
you.
one more. Go for one more.
Okay. Do you want another Saginaw one, or do you want?
No, it can be anywhere now. Yep.
Okay. Maybe I'll read the one that. So the other thing that happened recently, a poem from this collection was an honorable or a finalist for a Spur Award from the Western Writers of America for the Spur Award for Best Poem.
Okay.
And I thought I really wanted to win a Spur Award. They started out, basically just covering Westerns, and then they moved, into any books of the West or writers who are connected with the West. And a friend of mine out here who passed away last year, or 2 years ago, maybe, Richard Wheeler, he's published, probably close to 100 novels, and he won 6 or 7 Spur Awards. So I thought, I really want to win a Spur Award so I can be cool like Richard. But I was only a finalist, so
You're young yet.
I'm young yet. Yeah. Where is this thing? It's called, there it is. It's called 25 Bears, and my friend, some of you out there might know Rick Bass, the author. He lives out here, and I've been lucky enough to become good friends with him. We've had him read at the bookstore. In fact, he'll be here doing a live stream thing on the 25th of this month with Terry Tempest Williams to celebrate our 10th anniversary of the bookstore. But Rick asked me to come up to this place called the Yak Valley in the very, very northwest corner of Montana, and to just, kind of be inspired by the place and write some poetry. And this poem comes out of that experience. It's called 25 Bears. The promise of fly catchers hidden in the deep wood, tease of song from the shadows, the diamond light of water breaking into rivers' breath against the faces of rock, the caress of cedared wind and undulations of fir trees, standing room only on a west-facing slope, the scant clouds pawing their way across the sky-blue sky that is nothing but sky blue. The taste of this coffee on the cabin's deck, high above voicings of the Yak River, and all the rest of it, made richer by the fact of those remaining 25 grizzlies, somewhere out there living their perfect ursine lives. Without them, colors fade to sepia, sounds to a distant tin, and we lose some part of ourselves impossible to describe to future generations who will grow old believing that the natural shape of their soul is to have a cold, dark nothing lodged at its center, a hole the size of a bear track in the spring mud.
So why don't you tell people interested in buying any of your books, but particularly Vagabond and Life, how they can get them? How they can get them?
Excellent. Thank you. The easiest thing to do is go to my website, which is crowvoice.com. And that poem I read, Linguistics, is where that comes from, the idea of trying to learn the language of the crows. So crowvoice.com. And and then, there's easy links to both Life List and Vagabond Song, which will then take you, for Life List, it'll take you to my publisher, Riverfeet Press. And for Vagabond Song, it'll take you to my bookstore.
Okay.
And they're available other places as well, but just don't buy them from Amazon.
I knew that. I was just going to say.
But,
you working on another book at this point, or you never know when a book happens?
Yeah, I'm working on a couple things, and I don't know what's gonna, win the race to be the next one finished. But there's one that is called Walking to Work, Postcards to Earl.
Oh, yeah.
Where I wrote, very short poems. My walk to work is about 2 blocks in the cute little town I live in of Livingston. And I was inspired by Ted Kooser from him writing postcards to Jim Harrison on his, Winter Morning Walks is the name of his book. And I thought, well, if, I should be able to write a poem during my morning walk. So even though it's 2 blocks long, I just wrote a short poem many of the days on my way to work. And then I typed them up on my typewriter and taped them to a postcard and mailed it to my friend Earl, who's Michael Earl Craig is a really fantastic poet out here. So I'm working on just kind of compiling all of those into a short book. I think there's 32 of them or something like that. So
I should interject here. He does a poetry reading every Sunday, and he did that. They were delightful because he would show the postcard. Yeah, they were just more fun. So hopefully, okay. And then what else?
And the other thing I'm working on is not, my own work, but, for the bookstore, we do a little bit of publishing here, and I'm working on putting together a bibliography of, this Richard Wheeler, our friend here, who passed on. We were handling his library for his estate. And within, the books from his private library, there were a few hundred books by other authors signed to Richard, with really wonderful inscriptions, that really just displayed how much he meant to so many other writers. And so I want to do a book that's a bibliography of all those other books, that at the same time is kind of a celebration of Richard and his legacy.
Yep.
So
okay. Well,
happening.
I wish we could have you read poetry all night, but they need to buy the book. They need to buy the book. So I think that's it, unless there's something you want to wrap up with, or if we're good.
No, actually, the weather right now, it's so beautiful out there right now. It's about 75.
Oh,
and
it isn't
we
here.
still have about 3 hours of sunlight. And my wife and a friend are out on the front sidewalk with a bottle of wine.
Okay.
So
bye.
As soon as we wrap up here, I've got a gig.
Okay. Well,
sunshine.
Thank you for being our first guest, and
absolutely thank you so much.
Okay. All right. See ya
Okay,
around. Bye bye.
Bye bye.